I think probably all of us have heard this at some point, that we are the summation of the 5 people that we associate ourselves with the most. Now, let's dissect that and let's break that down. So, if we are the byproduct of the 5 people that we associate ourselves with the most, then who are we? I believe that we're a little bit of all of those people. You know, you pick up on different mannerisms, you pick up on different habits, and you participate with the things that your social circle does, right? So, how carefully have you chosen those 5 people that are in your life? Are you strict? Do you let anybody in your life? Do you hold on to relationships thinking that they should last forever? Or are you quick to push people out if they make poor decisions and are no longer a positive influence? Now let's talk about influence. So there's obviously 2 types of people out there. You've got your bad influences and you've got your good influences. I want to share with you how I was a bad influence when I was a little bit younger. So when I was a little bit younger, I was a drug distributor, just to be completely transparent with you guys. And during that time period, I was able to make a lot of money, I had a lot of fun. But what I didn't realize is that I was tarnishing the relationships with people that I had been friends with for 10 plus years. And why did that happen exactly? Well, I think it happened because after a certain time period, people didn't want to associate themselves with me because of the decisions that I was making. And the crazy thing is during that time period, my thought process was so clouded with my own ego that I couldn't realize the way I was being perceived by other people. I was perceived as a negative influence, and I lost friends as a result of that, some of which I've been able to reconnect with, and some of those that I haven't. And it took me a long time to realize that I was a bad influence on other people. And that's one of the big motivating factors behind me wanting to become a positive influence on others now that I'm older. Because I've been on both sides of the fence. I understand what it's like to be a negative influence on somebody, and I also know what it's like to be a positive influence on somebody. So, back then, during that time period, I felt as if I was kind of making up for not having friends when I was younger. So I was extremely embraceful of all of the people that were coming into my life. Anybody that wanted to be friends with me, or so I thought, I would welcome them into my life. As time went on, I realized that the vast majority of those people that were in my life weren't actually friends with me. They were just along for the ride because I was the guy that supplied all the fun. I was the one throwing the parties. I was the youngest person that had their own place, and I was a source of fun. So indirectly, I was kind of being used. And as a result of being used, I can realize and identify certain characteristics in people as to whether they're a genuine friend or they're a bad friend. Now, oftentimes when we're hanging out with people, it's very easy to fall into the social norm within that circle. So if you're a young person and you're going out, you're partying all the time, you're having a lot of fun, that's tremendous. But I think at a certain point in your life, you need to realize that some of those decisions that you're making are not necessarily conducive to your growth and your development long term. And it can become a hindrance to you moving forward in life. So let's think about that for a second. What does your social circle do? Is it composed of people that are talking about bettering themselves, investing, talking about career development, starting businesses, and maybe feeling better about themselves? Is it motivating and uplifting? How do you feel when you leave the home of one of your friends? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel excited? Do you feel invigorated? Or do you leave hungover? Think about that for a second. How are the people in your life influencing you? Is it positive or is it negative? Are you surrounded by people that have no career, haven't chosen to do with anything, and are creeping up on their 30s? Do you want to hang out with those people? Knowing the fact that you are the summation of the 5 people you associate yourself with the most. Whether or not you want to realize it, don't let your ego get in the way here. There are some things that you take away from the friendships that you have and become part of you. So it's very important to make sure that you are very particular about the people that you decide to associate yourself with, and very particular about those that you allow within your life. I'm going to share with you two people actually that I had to cut out of my life. So the first person that I had to cut out of my life, it was a pretty easy decision to make at the time. This gentleman was heavily addicted to opiates, and I myself never dabbled in opiates. I always thought that was an absolutely terrible decision to make, and I didn't really know it at the time. Unbeknownst to me, he was in my bathroom making a fentanyl nasal spray. which is absolutely terrible. But without diving into specifics on that, I could stigmatize that whole opiate scene for hours. But he ended up coming out, and he's sitting there in my living room and watching TV, and then he gets up and he's behind the couch, all right, with his arms on the couch, looking at the TV. I'm in the kitchen, I'm chefing it up, I'm doing my chef thing. I can't remember what I was making at the time, but I was cooking, right? My roommate's boyfriend comes down the stairs and goes, "Yo, is Dan okay?" And I was like, yeah, man, he's fine. Why? Not looking at him, by the way. And I look over, and he is now hunched over the couch, like full body weight on the couch. And I was like, that's a little weird. What the hell? So I go over and I tap him, like, "Yo, are you good? Like, what's going on?" Having no idea what he was doing in the bathroom. He ends up dropping to the floor, falls up against the wall, and was literally just blue in the face. I looked at my roommate's boyfriend and said, "You need to get the car out front right now." I grabbed him, I threw him over my shoulder, and I looked at my roommate and I said, "You need to get in the car and you need to give him mouth to mouth on the way to the hospital." I threw him in the back seat of the car. She was giving him mouth to mouth. We got to the hospital. I threw him over my shoulder, pulled him out of the back seat, ran into the hospital. Long story short, we saved his life. He overdosed on the fentanyl or whatever it was that he was doing in my bathroom. After that, he didn't take it nearly as seriously as we did. And to me, looking back on it, that was a huge sign as to where his thought process was. He just overdosed, and we saved his life, and he didn't think anything of it. And me, being the poor decision maker that I was at the time, still remained friends with him. Now, at that time, again, I was distributing, and he went behind my back and tried to essentially steal the business that I had built. Now, I understand there's probably some bias out there, and you might view me differently as a result of this. You know, that was years and years ago. But long story short, I had to cut that kid out of my life. Because one, he was going down the wrong path, wasn't making the right decisions, and ultimately served no purpose in my life at that point. And I still haven't spoken to him to this day. The next person that I had to cut out of my life was actually the person that introduced me to drug distribution when I was 18 years old. He came from a family that did this, mainly selling marijuana. His older brother put him into the industry, and then slowly but surely I got involved, and then it snowballed later on down the line. But as I got older and I got out of that business and went to college, continued my education, got out, got a real job, and started my life, he has still remained in that business and is very successful. So much so that there's always glamorous pictures that are posted, and to me, seeing that, knowing that that's the byproduct of distribution and me separating myself from that, I didn't want to be exposed to that. I don't want to be exposed to a drug dealer and the riches that they've gotten from doing that, because it certainly didn't serve me well. So I didn't feel comfortable being exposed to that on social media. So I had to make a decision that was in my best interest, and that was blocking and removing all social media ties to that person. Couple that with the fact that we had known each other since kindergarten, so we had known each other for a very long time. And there was multiple time periods where he disrespected me, and ultimately after trying to reconnect after a few years, there was a lot of blow-offs, and I just didn't feel respected. And couple that with the overexposure to that lifestyle, I had to make the decision and say, you know what, this person doesn't serve a role in my life any longer. And you know, had I identified that early on, I think I would have made a lot of different decisions. But now that I'm older and I can reflect on the benefits, the pros and the cons of the people that are in my life, I'm very choosy and very selective as to who I let in my life now as a result of all of that. Because quite frankly, I understand that if I'm going to be the embodiment of the 5 people I associate with the most, I'm damn sure going to make sure I'm associating with people that are successful, driven, and doing things the right way. Because that's what I'm trying to do. I want to make sure that the people that I'm hanging out with are aligned with the goals and the things that I'm looking to get out of my life. And I wish you do the same. If you are the person that is the negative influence, I certainly hope you're not, but if you're anything like me and you were that negative influence, and maybe even people have told you that like they told me, I really hope you open your ears and you listen. Put your ego aside. If somebody says that to you, that's truly how they feel. Right? And you need to understand that if somebody says that to you, there's clearly been some things that you've done, some actions that you've taken that have led them to draw that conclusion about you. And sometimes I understand it can be very difficult to hear those types of things because we all think of ourselves so highly. But you gotta really sit down and think about what you're doing. So hopefully you're not on that side of the fence, but if you are involved in a social circle that isn't driven by productivity and it's driven by partying or just simple stagnation, I want you to sit down and realize that some people that enter your life are not permanent fixtures in your life. Not all relationships are permanent. And I understand that that can be difficult to accept, especially for somebody like myself that didn't have relationships when I was much younger. So when I got them, I wanted to hold on to them. I wanted to make sure that I kept those connections. But after a while, you realize that there are some people that are toxic. And that level of being toxic varies from person to person. But nowadays, when I think about my friend circle, I'm surrounded by people that are starting families, starting businesses, focusing on real estate investing, highly educated individuals, people that I could pick up the phone, have a business conversation with, strategize, and put together a plan and actively be engaged. I have people that I hang out with that when I go over their house and I leave, I feel so motivated and empowered to make a difference in my own life. And that is such a powerful thing. That is so much better than going out and having a party buddy, somebody you get banged up with on the weekends. Being able to have somebody in your life that motivates you and drives you to make you better, that is a good friend. Now, I have other friends that I do mindless things with, that I'll sit down, I'll watch old wrestling with, and we'll go to concerts and we'll have fun. But those people are reserved for those specific time periods. However, when it comes to the day-to-day and the people that I talk to all the time, that I strategize with, that I communicate with, I'm very selective with that. I think it's about balance, right? Figuring out what one person can do and the other. And I understand it might sound a little self-serving for me to say, all right, what is the benefit that I'm getting out of this friendship? But you have to think like that, right? Because if you don't, then you're probably going to be in a situation where you're surrounded by the wrong people. You know, a lot of people will move away if they do feel that they're in the wrong place with the wrong people. They want to escape it. They want to broaden their horizons. And I find that to be such an ambitious way to go about doing it, and it really is the most courageous way. I myself have been fortunate I didn't have to do that, but for the most part, I don't talk to many people anymore. I've chosen to separate myself from a certain lifestyle and a certain demographic because it no longer fits my needs and where I'm looking to go with my life. And at a certain point, sometimes you might have to be alone. You might have to cut ties with your friends, and you might have to spend some time alone. But there's nothing wrong with that. That period of self-reflection allows you to figure out better who you can align yourself with to get you that much closer to where you want to go. That's the beauty of life, is that we can dictate whatever we want. If a situation isn't going the way that we want it to, then we have the ability to change it. We have the power. It all boils down to whether you want it. Figure out what direction you want out of your life, how people play a role in that, weed people out as necessary, bring people in, don't be afraid to go out and network and make new friends, and ultimately do what is best for you. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I really do appreciate it. And as always, feel free to visit my website, RTBTransformations.com, personal development coaching as well as fitness coaching. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Smash that bell button. And with that, guys, I'm out of here. Have a great day.